Good morning. 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 through 7 is a section that deals with marriage, and that's where we turn our attention to for the next several daily thoughts. So I'd like to begin in verse 1 and 2 and highlight something contextually that's clearly happening and some things that we noticed in the text about a woman's capacity as a wife to have an extraordinary impact. Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. Now let me say a couple of things. It's clear from the language of some who do not obey the word and the word that's used there, it's clear that these are husbands and men who were likely not believers. So it's targeting a woman who is in a marriage, and she's in a marriage with a guy who doesn't believe. And as he doesn't believe, he's living out the lifestyle of a non-believer. Now, living out and walking out the lifestyle of a non-believer, it's likely that he maybe not, but it's likely that he may mistreat her to some degree. If he doesn't mistreat her, at the very least, they're going to be on opposite ends of the poles in terms of their worldview. Well, how does a wife win her husband? Does she win her husband in that situation by repeatedly preaching the gospel to him? Does she win by nagging him? Does she win by confronting him repeatedly? Well, according to what Peter says here, that there's an opportunity for a wife to win to win this husband who doesn't obey the word by not speaking a word, just by living Christ in front of him, by her respectful and pure conduct. Now, of course, there's no guarantees here, but there's something to be said for having a kind of disposition wherein Jesus is so reflected that the character, the gentleness, the qualitative nature of that witness is so compelling that a husband who doesn't know Christ can look and say, I'd like that. I'd like that. There's a great hope embedded here. Now, let me say a couple of things, and I want to share with you something from Augustine's Confessions. First, abuse in a marriage from a man to a woman needs to be dealt with, and a woman needs to be sheltered and protected from abuse. There's no excuse for abuse. I want to share with you how a man who mistreated his wife was won by his wife way back, early 4th century. And it deals with what Augustine says about his mother, Monica. In writing about his mother, it says, in reference to her husband who was not a believer, she busied herself to gain him, her husband, to thee, preaching thee to him by her behavior, in which thou madest her fair and reverently amiable and admirable to her husband. It goes through with the things that she endured and all that she dealt with. In another section, he writes, even her mother-in-law, who was at first prejudiced against her, by the whisperings of malicious servants, she conquered by submission, persevering in it with patience and meekness. And then he goes on and gives the good news. Finally, her own husband, now toward the end of his earthly existence, she won over to thee. Finally, all those who knew her greatly praised her, honored and loved thee in her because, through the witness of the fruits of a holy life, they recognized thee present in her heart. I leave you with this. May the Lord help you, wives, to be such women that your lost husbands, or your husbands who aren't just maybe claiming Christ but not walking with him, they're won by what they see in you. May God give you that grace. May the Lord bless you today.